without props. Empty. My guest today is the filmmaker, set designer, and location scout, Simba. Welcome to the show.
Nice meeting you. Pleasure seeing you.
Nice meeting you. For real?
Yes.
We met yesterday, we met in the morning. You've been here the whole time?
Well, I haven't been on the reel.
Okay, so you're meeting me the first time on the reel.
Exactly.
Anyway, thank you so much for making the time to come through for the reel. I'm sure it's going to be a pleasurable time for you.
Sure, I'm looking
Tell me, where does your passion for props come from?
Well, props is a very wide thing. It's a lot of people don't really understand what props are. And when you talk about props, there's what they call props and there's what they call key props, or what they call hero props. So anything that an actor comes in contact with, it becomes a hero prop. You know, if your main actor gets hold of that camera, that's going to be a hero prop. That's going to be something that you're going to hold on to until that set or that scene is finished. Mm-hmm. And there are other props that pop in, like on a set, on a scene, like he briefly holds a spoon. It's still a key prop, but it's not major. It's not something that he's holding on to, strongly. But where does my passion come from? Well, sometimes it's very hard to understand where things come from, but I think everybody is an artist, and everybody draws their inspiration from different things. I've been collecting stuff since I was a kid, unconsciously.
Collecting spoons.
I don't know, so like unconsciously you find something there and you feel like it doesn't belong there, it should belong here. So you pick it and you place it there, and then for some reason you don't throw it. And you're like, I'll use it, but I don't know when I'll use it. Mm-hmm. So I was that kind of person. I was always collecting stuff. I was collecting stuff and I didn't know what I would do with it. But 12 years ago, I didn't know about props. I was working in film, but I was like as innocent as most filmmakers are today or then. And somebody asked me, I was actually fixing for a project, and then suddenly they said, listen, there's a big project coming, and we are looking for somebody to fill up a space in the art department. But since every position has been taken up, would you mind taking up that responsibility?
And you said no.
And, well, I'm curious. For me, no, there's nothing like no. I don't try, I do things. So you throw a challenge to me, I'm going to take it up. And until I can't do it, I'll do my best, you know. So I have nothing like trying, I do things. So he asked me if I could step in, and I said, okay. I was honest with him, I was like, I've never done this. Mm. But the fact that you've trusted me with this position, it means you trust me with the responsibility. So I took it to myself. I asked all the questions that were necessary for that position, and they only told me, go find it out yourself.
Wow.
So when I got into this business, there was no mentor. There was nobody to look up to and say, hey, listen, there's a figure out there that you can say, can you help me with this? I need some advice on props. Because we didn't know what props were. You just knew it was an object.
Yeah.
And the terminologies were the things that came up later. Mm-hmm. And so after doing that project, I was like, okay, I think I like this. It doesn't make sense, but it's something that I feel is important, So I took it up upon myself. I started doing research. Mm-hmm. I started studying, I started reading, and that particular project was successful. So the producers were happy, and the production house. And 6 months later, I was called on to another movie, and it was a much more bigger movie. And that movie there was a production designer, and I was the prop master and a set dresser at that time. And we were only 2 people running the art department. And the guy was like, we don't have a budget for the entire crew, but it's not about figures, it's about content. So I think we can split up these roles and do them, like 2 people. And that project was, again, successful. We managed to pull off the film. Film got awarded in the US. It was an American movie. and from there I was like, okay, now this is it. I'm not going to look back, you know. It's now or never. So I just took it up. And at that time, I think at that time, 2009, 2010 in Uganda, then the art department was like, what is that?
And I'm sorry, which movie was that?
It was a movie we shot in Luero. It was about a child who had lost the mother, and they had to transport the body to, you know, they had to transport their mother's body to the village, but on road. It was a very touching story.
Oh wait, I think I know that story. I
Yeah.
think I know that movie.
The movie is called Jama.
Did what the mother had died of HIV or something,
Yes,
and
yes.
there were 2 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like my third, fourth film where I was like really handed a lot of responsibility with no crew, with nobody. So I had to virtually learn everything on my own because my superior, my boss then was like, yeah, sorry, we don't have time for trainees, you know, you're going to have to do this your way. You know how to do it your way. Understand it your way, and then make sure that you fall within the lines, you know.
There's a legend in my land about a little girl who was very lonely. One day she was swimming in a lake and her heart jumped out of her chest and swam away from her. And the little girl never returned to the dry land because she kept searching for her heart forever.
Take Margaret and go there. Please. You need to come with me. Just come. I'll explain later.
What is your business here? You're not from around here, are you?
I'm just curious what kind of cargo you're pushing up this big hill.
I said no! At least you have someone to go to. Don't you have a family?
It won't take you, you'll be all alone!
Where is your mom? Where is Rebecca?
You can't have them here. I can barely afford food for my own family.
All right, we're back with AK Simba, so let's get right into it. AK, what does AK stand for?
AK is my name. AK Simba is my name. It's my real name.
So it's not something like
No, it's
AK
what is on my
Simba
identification.
Samson, aka
No, no,
AK.
no.
And I understand you have been on multiple productions, both here in Uganda and abroad. Can you tell me more about some of the productions that you have done that people know of?
There's quite a lot of productions in Uganda. The last 4 or 5 years, most of the feature films I've had the opportunity to work on them. The Queen of Katwe, worked on The Last King of Scotland. That's way back. Worked on Sarah's Notebook. Worked on Machine Gun Preacher. It's quite a list. It's quite a list.
When you work on such projects and then you are making your own films, I understand you're also a director, right?
Well, I direct films, but I wouldn't really come out openly and sell myself as a director. I think my strength is production designing. You know, like that's why I feel much more comfortable. But when I have my own projects, like my own stories that I want to tell, and I feel I can best tell them myself, I direct them. But I'm not directing commercially yet.
Let's back up a little bit when you say what you like to do best is art designing, right? Is that what you
Production designing.
Production designing.
Yeah.
What is the difference between an art director and a production designer?
Well, there's not a big difference. The difference is in roles. It's just a role thing. It's just a title thing. And it depends where you are. If you're in the UK, they'll possibly call you a director. In America, they'll call you a production designer. But also depends on the production itself, on the magnitude, on the size. If it's a big production, then you'll have a production designer coming in as the head of department, and then under him there will be an art director. So basically, the production designer will craft the overall look of the film, and then that visual is pushed down to the art director. The art director therefore sits down and designs the entire technical bench, like a technical drawing that is sent to the storyboard artist, to the prop master, to the construction, to set designers. So the art director basically manages the entire art department crew. The production designer.
The art director.
That's the art director.
Okay.
But in some instances, he could also be a production designer. So it depends on. It also depends on the budgeting. If the budget allows, you can have those two people split up, but they virtually do the same role.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you were to do, if you were to direct a project like your own movie, would you do both directing and?
When I work as a director, I hire another production designer.
So, okay, can you enlighten me more of that? Because if you like to be a production designer more than a director, and now you have got to direct a movie, to what kind of extent would you be satisfied that this person is going to do that job better than you do?
It's about having faith in people, Mona. If you don't trust people, if you don't trust yourself, then there's no need hiring other people to work with you. It all starts with you. If you trust yourself, you're going to learn how to trust other people. So if I bring in another production designer, I mean, we're going to work. It's not like I'm bringing in somebody and leaving the work to him. So when I work on my projects, I like to be challenged. I like to look at things without and get out of my own comfort and let other people, come in and do things. That way I feel like I'm learning and I'm also growing from another aspect.
Yeah.
And
what's the ideal thing that you look for before taking on a job?
Besides the job, we are humans. It's you, it's me. What relationship do we have? Sometimes it's a very complicated person, and you come on a project and okay, I'm just going to have to do my job, get my paycheck, and go away.
Go away, yep.
But that is like cooking without soul. It's like just cooking without soul. So for me, it's important to have a connection, to have a relationship with somebody, because a lot of people you work with are not people you just bump into. There's always been a history. You've possibly seen them, because the film industry, especially in Uganda, is really small. There are very few individuals. If it's a pyramid, it's actually like that. You know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of people on top, and there's very few people down, like holding the pyramid, and yet it's supposed to be like this. A lot of people down supporting, one thing up. But I really like to work with. What I like is having a relationship, because once you have a relationship, like built, then everything flows.
If you got a script, tell me some of the major challenges that you have encountered having to work on any given production.
Well, every script comes with its own challenges, But one of, I'll just cite you an example. There was a script I was given even before we got into production. And I remember so well the producer telling me, listen, you take this script, go read it, break it down, and come back to us with a budget. And I did that and then came down to them. And the first thing they said, you're too ambitious. And I'm like, but this is what you asked me to do. If you want your story to be what it has to be, you're going to let me...
be less ambitious.
Yeah, you're going to have to let me work as an artist. This is why you need me. But besides that, for a very long time in Uganda, there's not been an existing, call it an art department. That it never existed in the first place, Like when you went out and told somebody, listen, you know what, you're shooting a movie, but you know what, why don't you ask me to come in, you know, why don't you provide a role for me to come and work as a prop master at least, or your set dresser? I was like, no, we don't have a budget for that, you know. Well, besides, any PA can do that, you know. And any PA actually can do that. But who are you? Who is that PA? You know, what do you want? Do you want people to fill in ranks, or do you want people to add value to your project, you know? And so it goes on and on that we produce films, and they look great. The camera looks great. The images look stunning, but there's no content, you know. Like, the stories are great, but
There's nothing.
there's
in the
nothing.
frame.
You know, it's like, okay, my son could do the same, you know. He
Yeah.
could just tell a story without necessarily having to set it up, you know. So that's the challenge, that people don't understand the importance of having an art person in your set. Even if you just have one person, just have that one person, you know, and provide them with the other necessary crew. Send in your PAs then, but get one person who understands what they're doing. Let them help you understand what you want to achieve, and that way we can tell our stories. I mean, our stories, Ugandan stories, African stories, the right way. But otherwise, there's really not much we're doing besides just running around the circle.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Eke is going to tell us more about what he does. All right, we're back with Eke Simba, and we're still exploring more of his world. Before the break, you said we had no art department many years ago. How can we develop the discipline of production design in Uganda?
The discipline will start with recognition. You need the art department. And whoever is out there and they're busy building up or creating stories, they need to understand that this person or that person who is responsible for that department is very key, is very important to your story. So the discipline will start from acknowledging the existence and the importance of the department.
I see you brought something.
Yep, I'm very curious, sir.
Yeah, very curious.
About this radio, something from the 50s, early 60s, Swiss radio, so made in Germany, could find it also in France. And why I brought this was basically to kind of explain what happens or what challenges you face on every movie you get onto. You know, every movie is like another day. It's like there's no day that looks like the other. So one of the challenges that we face now, or we will face in the near future in Uganda, I would like to talk mostly about film in Uganda because this is where we are.
This is
home. This is Uganda.
Yes.
And we don't have a culture of preserving stuff. You know, like anything that we get, we substitute it for
Something better, maybe.
something new or
opinion.
better, but
Yeah.
you know, but we don't have that culture. But how are we going to tell our stories if everything that was in that time is destroyed? I mean, a collection of a team of people in Tadoba, which is a collection of, which is like what we call our umbrella or company. We take it up to ourselves to collect stuff, because if you came to me with a story and it's a time film, it's up to me. If you say you have the budget and you say that's your budget, it's entirely up to me to make sure that your story fits within the time frame.
Within the time frame, yes.
So a few things like this, the radio, the cameras, is very key to your story. Every movie comes with its own challenge. If it's a sci-fi, we might have to build up things from nothing. Once we recognize that this department is key, the people involved in that business are key, then we're going to make great films. But before we do that, it's a long way. It's a long way.
Message received. And before I let you go, I would like for you to look into that camera and, in your own words, 5 seconds, say something to all the people, all the filmmakers out there, and even the people that are not interested in film, that you would probably want to pick it from you to get interested? 5 seconds, go.
There's a difference between filmmaking and art. Everyone is a filmmaker today, but there's not so many artists. So passion is very key. Whatever you do, whatever you choose to do, whether you're doing production designing or you're choosing to go into costume or camera, you're going to understand that the business you're getting into is not a potato business. Film is film. You risk, you come in fully fledged. So if you want to come into film, please come in knowing that you're walking into a battle. So it's a battle for us every day. We wake up, we go, we put on our boots, and we go and fight. Because this is our bread and butter.
Battle for us indeed. Eke, it's a
Mona,
pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me
Thank
here.
you so much for
It was a
making the
pleasure.
time.
Always.
Would like to say thank you so much for watching the show. That's all that we have for you today. Be sure to tune in next time as we bring you and explore more of what's happening in our film industry. I'm your host, Mona. For now, keep those cameras rolling.